You're watching The Context. It is time for our new weekly segment, AI Decoded. Welcome to AI Decoded. It is the time of the week when we look in depth at some of the most eye-catching stories in the world of artificial intelligence. We're going to start tonight with the Financial Times report that a Chinese man working for Google has been charged with stealing artificial intelligence secrets from the technology giant. The software engineer was hired in 2019 in one of the company's data centers. On the Live Science website, it claimed that programmers could create an artificial intelligence agent just as smart as humans in only 3 years' time. But at what cost? The New Republic warns today that AI could severely damage our chances of moving to a sustainable future. Once we all start switching to AI programming, there will be a phenomenal amount of energy needed to power the AI systems. In the Taiwan news, a father who lost his daughter to a rare blood disorder has used AI to digitally resurrect his daughter's voice and her image, as seen in this picture. I've got some video of that I'll show you later in the programme. And The Guardian carries the concerns of a Microsoft engineer who wrote an open letter this week alleging the company's AI image generator lacks basic safeguards to prevent users creating violent or sexualized images. And we'll finish tonight with news from police in Birmingham that while trialing an AI-powered voice assistant, they've discovered that the chatbot might struggle to understand local Brummie accents. That will certainly mither people. With me tonight, making his debut on the programme, it's a warm welcome to Samir Malal, who himself is an AI developer and filmmaker, so he gives all the expert analysis on our stories tonight. Welcome. So let's start with this story about the Chinese spy who was working as an engineer, data engineer in Google's headquarters and stealing trade secrets. What would he be after?
He'd be after how they make the models, right? That's where a lot of the value comes from. Things called weights, which are basically the way that the models produce the outputs and the kind of secret sauce of these complex language models.
So that would be not something they would have access to in China? They've not. Are they going at different speeds, companies in the United States and China?
So China said a few years ago, by 2030, they're going to be number one in AI, right? But that hasn't been the case, right? They're not really keeping up with what the U.S. is doing, and especially, when ChatGPT came out, just kind of blew them out of the water. And so now they're kind of playing catch up. So I think this plays into that, competition. And I think what you're seeing is the culture of technology innovation in the U.S. is different than in China, right? In the U.S., even though you've got all these big companies doing AI, there's still this culture of openness, right? Mm-hmm. There's a culture of knowledge sharing. There's a culture of, hey, we're going to build pieces of things that everybody can use, right? But China's not like that, right? China's more closed, and I think you're seeing the downsides of that right now in terms of innovation.
It's almost akin to an arms race, this though, isn't it? Because within all these data processing centers, there's the source code, the core, if you will, of the whole programming. And I guess that's what's most valuable to these companies. I mean, he's going to get a prison sentence of 10 years. So that's how serious the state sees it.
It is. It's huge. The stakes are huge, right? Because whoever wins in AI or gets ahead in AI is going to get ahead in every field, every industry, defense, arms, right? So, you're seeing this play out in every sector.
Let's turn to the story in the one about AI Singularity, that it might come a lot quicker. This is super intelligence, which is something you're really working on. I know in your field, we've sat and talked about this before. So tell me where we're at the moment with artificial intelligence and where we're going. That might explain it to people.
It's kind of up for debate. Some people say we're actually much closer to what we call AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is essentially a machine that's as smart as a human, but that has the knowledge of everything that's come before, right? So we're pretty close, right? Sam Altman was let go of OpenAI, and people say it was partly because he was getting close to AGI, and people were getting nervous about it in terms of there being enough safeguards, et cetera. So I think we're actually closer than 3 years out. I think we're perhaps 1 or 2 years away from that.
You explained it to me in terms of the iPhone. So we had the iPhone, what, in 2004, 2005?
Yeah.
And now we have the 13th, 15th generation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's taken us maybe 15 years to get to that point, right? This is happening exponentially quicker, such that we could arrive at a period very soon where this machine is accessing its own code and rewriting its own code.
It's true. It's true. And I think we're probably a lot closer than we realize. And I guess the question is, well, what are the positives? What are the negatives? Because I think there are still positives in these developments, right? Because I think AI will help us solve some major problems that we're unable to solve right now, right? Things like nuclear fusion, cancer, those kinds of things. AI is going to help us, and AGI will help us do that.
What are the models that you show me? I mean, we've been talking, and you've been showing me an avatar that you're working with.
Yeah.
What does it do, and how lifelike is it?
Well, it's surprisingly lifelike. I'm a director, and I come from a writing background, and what I've found is it's kind of incredible because you can give these AI assistants instructions, and you kind of write it like you're talking to an actor, or you're inventing a character, but it's a character that can then actually take life and can kind of communicate. So it really brings up questions of, well, what does it mean to be a person? Because if you're getting a communication back that you feel is surprising and has a voice and has a tone and has an opinion, does that make it a person, right? Even though it's a machine.
Well, that would depend on emotion and empathy. And can they do that?
Yes, they can. They can, because what is empathy, right? Empathy is the ability to mirror somebody else's experience and take that in for yourself and be able to communicate that back to them in some way. And these machines can do that. I've been training my AI work to do exactly that. And you took a look at it, right? And so,
well, you've got a family of them. I mean,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
They're human. They're beings that are learning every day.
Exactly, they're learning, and I think they are capable of empathy. They're capable of creativity, right? So it's not, to me, it's not just a tool. People keep calling it a tool, but I don't see it as a tool.
I mean, as more and more of us do this and start interacting with it, then obviously we're going to be talking about the energy use, and we've talked about that on this program before. The scariest part about artificial intelligence is just the immense energy use it will require. It could double by 2026. We're not ready for that.
It's huge. It's huge. Right now, the energy use is massive, and I totally agree that it is an issue. I think there's a few things to keep in mind. One of them is that right now, this compute, it's happening in the cloud, right? But very soon, it's going to happen more and more locally on your device. So Apple is really going, full into AI, and they're going to be running AI on device. So that is going to massively reduce the amount of energy that's required, right? I think the second thing is that the models are getting a lot smaller. So, we talked about the iPhone. I mean, this is like iPhone 1. Okay. So
they'll become more energy efficient.
They'll become more energy efficient.
But it's slightly dystopian, isn't it? That you've got robots that are, some of these data centers are in deserts and they're using a finite resource like water. I read that once you put something into OpenAI, you use half a bottle of water.
Sure, but how much energy does it take to make a Tesla? How much carbon is released with the creation of Tesla batteries? But we're still doing that, right? Because we still think it's a good thing to do. So I think that, yes, that is an issue, but it's something that is going to get solved.
Okay, let's move on to this story in the Taiwan Times, which quite moves me actually. So this man, he lost his daughter back in 2021 from a rare disease. He's a creative, bit like you, and his life ended, and he's brought his daughter back to life digitally. I can see a lot of people doing this.
So look, you're talking to somebody who has lost their family, right? So I can totally understand why he would want to do this. And
Got a
reading.
video. Have we got a video of this? This is what he created, right? So she's in a dance movie here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, it's that creating that connection is pretty amazing, right? To be able to kind of reconnect with this person.
But it's more powerful than a photograph album or a home movie that you shot while she was alive.
Yeah.
This is somebody that you could interact with.
Yeah, and you can talk and you can feel, right? Like you can feel them, you can hear their voice. So it is different. And what he said in the article is that it brought him closure. Yeah. Now, I think if you're...
It'll divide opinion, won't it? Because
I
you don't
so.
want a machine assuming the personality of your, maybe some don't, of a late relative.
If it helps you go through that process, then why not? Right? Because it's a very painful, very difficult process. It's hard to imagine what it's like to lose a child. I don't think anybody can imagine unless they've gone through it. So, I think that for this particular person, it helped them, but it does raise questions, doesn't it? Because, how does that person who's not here anymore, how do they have agency over what you're making them say, what you're making them do?
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see people's responses to that. Send them in. I always like to see how people feel about some of these stories. Number 5, our story from The Guardian, about AI image generator that Microsoft has, which is explain to people, first of all, how the AI generator works, and then we'll come to what it's doing.
Sure. So it's kind of an interesting process the way it works. It's actually might not be what you think. It's not just about taking a bunch of images and then spitting out some copy of those. It kind of learns everything about an image, and it starts with noise actually, and then it kind of subtracts all the noise, and from that subtraction it looks for what it understands the shape is of what you're looking for. So let's say you say, hey, make me a tennis racket. It knows exactly what a tennis racket should look like. And so it's actually subtracting all of the noise in the picture to get to that image of a tennis racket. It's like finding something in fog. That's kind of how it works. That's the best illusion.
But this engineer has written an open letter saying, look, it's creating sexualized images, it's creating violent images. An example, they keyed in the prompt car accident, and the Copilot designer generated an image of a woman kneeling in front of a car in just her underwear.
Yeah, because it's trained on so many different things, right? And what happens is they have these huge data sets, and they're not necessarily even aware of all the stuff that's going in there, right? Because a lot of these big image generative engines, they're trained on the entire internet. So basically they're just hoovering up everything that's on there and putting it into the training of the machine, right? So I think what's going to happen now going forward is there's going to be much more attention paid to, okay, what is going into the training, right? What kind of images, what kind of, what's the data going in? And I think we're going to see, this is kind of like Napster.
But if it's learning,
right?
does it learn to exclude that picture? Does somebody go back in and say, look, we don't want the woman in the photograph, we just want the car? Is it learning all the time?
Those things are happening more now, and there's more and more processes getting put in place. But, it's trained on millions and millions of images, right?
Okay, quickly, the story from West Midlands Police. They were trialling AI, which they want to use to deal with non-emergency calls, and this AI system can deal with about 200 a day. So, in fact, the Chancellor was talking about this yesterday in his budget. He wants to use this to save manpower and hours that people can concentrate on things that are more important. But the problem is, it doesn't recognise Brummy voices.
Yeah. As a Canadian, I probably should.
You empathise, yeah.
No, but I think, look, this is the problem, right? People are wanting to do AI, wanting to use AI products, but they're not, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach for everybody, right? And I think, people are getting sold these products that aren't necessarily ready for prime time, and I think this is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I have the same problem. My wife speaks in Queen's English, or King's English now, to the Alexa, and it understands her perfectly. It doesn't respond to me at all in my Burnley twang. But so anyway, but they do learn very quickly. They do learn.
They do, and they can be taught. You know, this problem could have easily been solved.
Okay, so if you're there in the West Midlands, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
You will get your phone calls answered when it has learned how to use the Brummie accent. Samir, lovely to chat with you. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. That's it for this week. Of course, we'll do this every week on a Thursday. Hope you'll join us for the next one.